Hey everyone, it's James at geometricharts.com. About 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, November 12th, the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, BTC, USDT on the Binance Exchange. So Bitcoin has run into some serious resistance, and it has been under this resistance since the 9th. So for what is that, like 4 days now, or 3 days now, going on to 4, because it will peel into 4 later tonight. But this is a major resistance zone for us right here. And the volume that has come into the market, I'm only seeing it to the downside in these plays. And it literally almost looks like Bitcoin is forming a head and shoulders. Now, I'm not one to get hyped up about bigger trends, right? Like, obviously, you see the giant symmetrical triangle. But I use my lines to find the frequency in price and to see how it's reacting. The blue lines are showing buying pressure. The orange lines are showing selling pressure. Now, the thicker orange line and the thicker bluer line just show the symmetrical triangle and show the major support and resistance lines for this market. The fact that Bitcoin can't break above this area right here and it keeps getting rejected and rejected and rejected, then we have a we have basically buyers fatiguing out at this level, meaning less and less people are showing up to buy. And as price is getting pumped up, it's immediately being sold into. So there are more, the sellers are, again, taking control of this market like they have been for a very, very long time. And you can and it's, completely evident, not only from the chart pattern, but when you start to zoom back, even on the stochastics and on the RSI, this entire time since the 6,000 bottom back here, Bitcoin has been struggling. Even since, like, well, not so much since the 5,700 bottom, but since about the 6,000 bottom right here back in September, since these lows have been pumped and pumped and pumped, Bitcoin is struggling to find that momentum to carry price higher. And instead, it's just a scheme of pump and dumps and pump and dumps and pump and dumps and pump and dumps. And I do not imagine that it's going to change anytime soon. So anyways, as of now, if Bitcoin cannot break above 6,500, there's going to be a world of pain opening up for Bitcoin. It needs to break above 6,500, not because it is the symmetrical triangle, but it needs to start to change the trend of the mood, which is down. I mean, the overall chart setting does not look good at all, and on the short term, it's really starting to look bad as well too. So with all of this coming together, and with the major bearish divergence in the RSI and stochastics in this market, it is definitely an alarm that people need to be aware of. You know, it just doesn't look good, not only for Bitcoin, but for a lot of the alts. A lot of the alts also are producing pump and dumps. I mean, it's like the whole industry, just across the board, has produced so many pump and dumps that I think most retail traders, and I imagine even most people watching these videos, are just really fatigued and they've had enough of it. And I think that has to happen because of complete control over this market. I do believe that if Bitcoin is going to survive, as well as some of the alts, one of the alts could take over Bitcoin's position. Who knows? I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do know is that if Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to survive, like as a market, as a fiat replacement, or not even if it becomes a fiat replacement, let's just say a majority of payments are done through Bitcoin until fiat is phased out decades down the road, or whatever, however long it takes, it has to be completely dominated by the financial institutions. And what I mean by that is the banks. The banking cartel has to come in, dominate this market completely, and through doing that, it's going to create a lot of chaos. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And that's why we're seeing this horizontal price movement, essentially. We're seeing this violent up and down price action, just whipping traders out, small and big traders as well, too. But it's allowing, right, if this is happening, I don't have any proof that it's happening. But what I do know from the stock markets being managed by the Fed, PPT, and the commodities markets being managed by the banking cartel, leads me to believe, and even the fiat markets managed by the banking cartel, then I could not imagine a world in which cryptocurrency will survive without being managed by the banking cartel. And again, that means a lot of volatility. Call it a conspiracy, call it whatever you want, but anyone who follows the money knows that there's no free markets anymore. It's all managed markets with the illusion of being free. It's essentially a magic show across the board. And the illusion of Bitcoin being this anonymous way to make payments and to do things, not necessarily Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin has opened up in that sense, but some of these other coins all as alternative payments to hide yourself from governments, financial institutions, etc. I mean, come on, that's we might as well talk about unicorns running around at that time. There's no way in the future these things survive without being completely dominant and open to governments and financial institutions to know exactly what the citizens are doing. So I just don't see that happening. But the reason why I bring it up is because this market has moved to a horizontal plane and will more than likely continue to do so, even though we are in a symmetrical triangle, and it could lead to a pretty big move up or down. I don't think they're going to last very long. They're going to be very short-lived either direction, and price is going to just chop around. And if we do break out to the downside, I definitely think we're going to take out the prior low of 57.50. I think we probably have a date with mid 5,000 range before producing another potential big rally in this market like we've seen in the past, where Bitcoin just comes from gets driven right down into the ground and just shoots out like a superhero. And I think that's kind of what we're lining up to. I think that's why we see so many pump and dumps. The market is being primed and primed and primed and primed. The media hypes it up as much as they can. Every single pump, people are fatiguing out. Big players, I think, are definitely fighting big players at this point. Retail has just been churned and chopped every way, shape, or form. So I do think this could lead to a bloodbath phase. And by doing that, the market could drop out sub 57.50, possibly to about 5,500. Now, there's a lot of support at this 6,000 to 6,300 area, so it's not going to go easy. But where I would expect price to really pick up some selling pressure is right under about 6,350. I imagine that once Bitcoin starts to traverse under that major line of support, we are going to see a waterfall event. If Bitcoin can break above 6,500, we should see another spike up. But I with every part of my body, I definitely believe it is going to be a pump to a dump and a complete reversal, and more than likely not only 100% retracement, but probably something in the neighborhood of 150% retracement, meaning that we would spike up and then spike back down and smash out the uptrend line and continue down probably into the mid 5,000 range. I just do not see this market making any sustained move to the upside anytime soon unless some magical event happens and Bitcoin's trading above 8,000 or something wild and crazy like that. But you can clearly see the selling pressure in a market that is trying to build higher lows. So this is why overall I am bearish on Bitcoin, and it's becoming more and more evident as we are getting closer and zooming in on the timeline as well too, just with this simple price action, but also with what is happening in the altcoins. So hopefully it all makes sense. I wish I had a clear direction in which way price is going to go, but at the end of the day, Bitcoin is clearly moving on more of a horizontal plane than anything. Yes, we're making some higher lows, and yes, there's lower highs, but at the end of the day, we are traversing horizontally. But the big red flag is that the momentum is continuously dying during each one of these pumps, showing bearish divergence in the RSI and stochastics on a larger scale in this market. I mean, for months. And if this plays out, and typically what happens is, like, you imagine like the momentum is like the head of this beast, where the head goes, the body is going to follow, and the head is going down and the body's like trying to fight and stay up. But if this giant collapses, like everything is showing, it's more than likely bound to do so, unless there's some, I mean a magical event. Like, we need a big spike in this market followed by a big spike in sustained volume. And sustained means longer than 42 to 72 hours in this market. We can't see an 8 billion spike in volume and then it all wash right back out, you know? So unless there's some wild event like that occurring, which I highly, highly doubt is going to happen, this beast is looking to roll over, and it's just being propped up for as long as possible. And I think we're starting to really see it now toward the tail end of this move. So anyways, hopefully all that makes sense. I definitely am going to remain in the camp a bear of Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market as a whole until proven otherwise. And I have to have this bearish tone to all these videos, and I don't mean to drag them out and talk, but I know there's a lot of new people that watch these videos, so I just try to kind of talk about everything. But it's just very hard to get hyped up about this market, even though I believe in the long-term aspects of this, of cryptocurrency. I just can't get hyped about what I see on the chart, what I see in price action. The chart, the energy is telling us that this market's getting fatigued. And unless there's a crazy event, there's no way it is going to be reversed until the body follows the head and we land somewhere that's probably going to create a bloodbath phase and freak a lot of people out. And then maybe from there, we produce another leg up or a change in direction. But anyways, so that's it for tonight. I'll do another video on Wednesday. Hopefully we have something a little more to go off of versus this chop sideways. Even though I definitely think the overall trend is down, I just I wish I could give you just a little more. The only thing I could say is 6,500 for the top, about 6,350 for the bottom. Those are the two big areas to watch out for, and how price reacts to those zones will determine the short-term future, and I do believe the long-term future, especially if we get a break to the downside. Again, that body's going to follow the head, and it's not looking good.